Greetings and welcome to the Daily Devo for Thursday, the 28th of September today. Jesus walks on water. You've heard that one, I'm sure. It's a really great story in the Gospels. It's recorded in Matthew, Mark, and John of Jesus walking on water. Of course, Peter takes a shot at it sometime too. Matthew, Mark, and John. The verse quoted is Matthew 14:27. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Our author's goal here is that we see that Jesus comes to rescue people, even people with imperfect faith. And I'm pretty sure that takes in 99.9% of us. Perfect faith, like perfect love, dispels all fear, 1 John 4:18. I'm not that person. All too often I find myself responding like the father seeking help for his son. I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. Mark 9:24. This story of Jesus walking on the water teaches us how Jesus responds to people with imperfect faith. Jesus had just finished feeding 5,000 Jewish households with a miraculous meal. He directed his disciples to take a boat from the harbor at Bethsaida on the north side of the lake, Mark 6:45, back to Capernaum on the western shore of the lake, John 6:16-17. While they spent time on the water, Jesus spent time in prayer. Early the next morning, long after they should have arrived in Capernaum, the disciples were still on the lake. They were battling a strong spring storm whose westerly winds blew them off course. No matter how hard they rowed, they were stuck in the middle of the lake, tired and frustrated. While the storm itself does not appear to have stoked their fear, what happened next did. On this dark and stormy night, it was a dark and stormy night, they saw a ghostly figure moving toward them on the surface of the water. It was Jesus doing something God can do, leaving unseen footprints on the water. And they reference Psalm 77:19 in that. His first words were not meant to correct, but to comfort. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. In that moment, Peter's faith was stirred into action. He asked to join Jesus, and Jesus said, come. And so Peter stepped over the gunwale of the overloaded boat that was riding perilously low in the water. With faith and no small amount of courage, he too walked on the surface of the water. But the farther he got from the boat, the more his attention was distracted from Jesus to the wind and the waves. What had he done? Lord, save me. Maybe we should have read that more as what had he done? Lord, save me. Jesus again responded to his quavering faith, not with rebuke, but with an extended hand that grabbed the sinking Peter and put him back in the boat. That is how Jesus responds to imperfect faith. Thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ, our Lord. And that's from Romans 7:25, that famous chapter. Everybody loves Romans chapter 8, but it's preceded, as you might guess, being as smart as you all are, preceded by Romans 7, where Paul basically laments for a chapter. Woe is me. I really want to do the good stuff, but I find myself doing the bad stuff. And I don't want to do the bad stuff, but I find myself still doing it. It's hard for him it's an honest confession that I think many of us can identify with. We want to do what the Lord wants us to do. We want to have the faith and trust necessary to step out wherever he's leading, whatever he's asking of us. And yet, we hem and we haw. We're kind of like those guys that came to Jesus and said, hey, I want to follow you, but first I got these other commitments I got to take care of. Commitments with that kind of thing, they're saying those are more important than me following you right now. And hit the gong, show gong. But if we're trying, if we are taking those simple steps of faith like Peter did getting out of the boat, it's amazing. I know we doubt him because he gets afraid, but holy cow, which one of us would have even taken those first steps out of the boat? And it was that hint of faith, that effort made by faith, that Jesus honored. He didn't get on his case. He didn't insult him or downplay him. Took him by the hand, put him back to square one. But with the memory, he did it. He did it for a few steps. Maybe next time something presents itself, he'll be able to do more. And that's how it is for all of us. That's a great example for all of us in our lives. Regular life comes with its difficulties. And the longer we live, the longer we know that. At least when we're young, we've got that. We can overcome this. We're invincible, which sometimes is a bad thought to have. But there's that sense of confidence that doesn't maybe come from faith in God, comes from faith in ourselves. But when we're young, and even following Christ, young pastors go to churches and they've got their degrees and they've been told how the church should operate, and they think they'll be the new sheriff in town, as it were. And guess what? Not too far in, you're doubting whether you're called or not. You're doubting whether or not this was really God's will for you, or if you were just making other people happy. It's part of the deal. But that's what faith is. And God honor. I love this. I just love that line. How God would honor, how the Lord would honor even our imperfect faith. He's not surprised by it. He's mindful that we're dust. He knows we're weak. He knows we're not going to have a 1,000 batting average. We're not going to hit every shot, kind of thing. And so that's okay. We learn. We learned. We grow. When I was a little kid, growing up in Streeter, Illinois, our church was part of a church league basketball team for kids. I was just getting started out, and there was the older guys, the first stringer guys that would meet at the Salvation Army gym for practice. And I would shoot all night, just shooting around down the other end of the court. I would shoot around all night long. And my dad had come to pick me up, and I'd be so thrilled. I made 3 baskets tonight, Dad. Now, in actuality, that kind of stinks if you've taken 100 shots and you only made 3. But at the end of the day, that's how all things of faith begin, with the baby steps, with learning, with growing, with getting better at, and having more and more faith to trust the Lord that this can be more and this can be better. Blessings to you today. Take to heart this lesson on faith today, this imperfect faith that we all have, and yet thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ our Lord. Blessings to you today on this Thursday.